And the moment I saw that internal memo, everything clicked into place. A major pharmaceutical company's own documents admitted, in writing, that widespread testosterone therapy would significantly cannibalize revenue streams from adjacent treatment categories. They weren't worried about your health. They were worried about their quarterly earnings. Because here's what happens when a man optimizes his testosterone. He stops needing the antidepressants. He stops needing the sleep medications. He stops needing the metabolic drugs, the erectile dysfunction pills, the anxiety prescriptions. One hormone, optimized correctly, starts collapsing an entire cascade of pharmaceutical dependency. And that's not speculation. That's their own internal language. Adjacent treatment categories. That's corpo speak for all the other drugs we sell him because we never fixed the root cause. Your doctor isn't evil. Your doctor is trapped in a system that was specifically engineered to make testosterone therapy look dangerous, experimental, and fringe, while the same companies fund the studies, write the guidelines, and train the physicians. This is the real story of why getting testosterone in America became nearly impossible. And it has absolutely nothing to do with protecting you. Welcome back to the Real Bio Protocol. Today we're going to dismantle one of the most profitable medical deceptions of the last 30 years. We're going to follow the money from pharmaceutical boardrooms to medical school curriculums to the insurance company algorithms that flag testosterone prescriptions for review. We're going to look at the actual clinical data, not the cherry-picked headlines, and understand why the medical establishment treats a hormone your body literally cannot function without as if it were a controlled narcotic. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why your doctor hesitates when you bring up testosterone. You'll understand why the clinic down the street that was helping hundreds of men suddenly got shut down. And you'll understand what you can actually do about it. This isn't about convincing you that testosterone is a magic solution. This is about showing you how an entire medical system was captured by financial interests, and how you became collateral damage. Let's start with what they taught your doctor. ACT1. The problem: walk into any primary care office in America with symptoms of low testosterone, fatigue, brain fog, declining muscle mass, zero libido, depression that doesn't respond to SSRIs, and watch what happens. First, your doctor will likely dismiss these symptoms as normal aging. You're over 35. What did you expect? This is just what happens to men. If you push back, if you actually request a testosterone test, you'll encounter the second layer of resistance. The test comes back at 350 nanograms per deciliter. Your doctor looks at the reference range, 264 to 916, and tells you you're within normal limits. Case closed. Never mind that the reference range includes 95-year-old men in nursing homes. Never mind that a 35-year-old man at 350 is functioning with the hormonal profile of his grandfather. Never mind that the normal ranges have been systematically lowered over the past 3 decades, almost perfectly tracking the rise of pharmaceutical alternatives for every symptom low testosterone causes. Coincidence? Let's keep going. If you somehow get past this barrier, if your levels come back below even those generous thresholds, you'll hit the third wall. The warnings, the hesitation, the careful language about cardiovascular risks, and prostate concerns, and we need to monitor this very carefully. Your doctor will likely suggest alternatives first. An antidepressant for the mood issues. A sleep study for the fatigue. Maybe Viagra for the bedroom problems. Metformin for the metabolic dysfunction. Each symptom siloed. Each symptom medicated separately. Nobody connecting the dots. You know how much revenue a single low testosterone male patient generates when you treat his symptoms individually instead of addressing the root cause? One analysis I reviewed estimated $18,000 annually in pharmaceutical costs, antidepressants, sleep aids, metabolic drugs, medications, and the inevitable statin prescription when his cardiovascular markers start declining. You know how much testosterone replacement therapy costs? About $50 to $200 a month. Let's call it $1,500 annually on the high end. Now you might be thinking, okay, but maybe testosterone really is dangerous? Maybe the doctors are just being cautious? That's exactly what you're supposed to think. That narrative was engineered with surgical precision. Let me show you how. In 2010, a study was published that became the cornerstone of testosterone fear. The TOM trial, testosterone in older men with mobility limitations. Headlines screamed that testosterone therapy increased cardiovascular events. The study was stopped early due to safety concerns. What the headlines didn't mention: the study enrolled extremely sick, elderly men with multiple pre-existing conditions. The testosterone dosing protocol was aggressive and poorly monitored. And when independent researchers analyzed the actual data, they found the statistical methodology was questionable at best. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. Insurance companies had their justification. Medical boards had their talking points. An entire generation of physicians was trained to view testosterone as dangerous, based on a deeply flawed study in a population that looked nothing like the typical man seeking treatment. Meanwhile, the FDA added a black box warning to testosterone products in 2015. The warning was based largely on observational studies and that same flawed trial data. Researchers who actually understood the evidence protested. Endocrinology societies pushed back. It didn't matter. The system got what it needed: fear. ACT2. The hidden truth: here's what the pharmaceutical industry doesn't want you to see. In 2023, the results of the Traverse trial were published in the New England Journal of Medicine. This was a massive, randomized, placebo-controlled study, the gold standard of medical research, following over 5,000 men with cardiovascular risk factors for an average of nearly 3 years. The conclusion? Testosterone therapy did not increase the risk of major cardiovascular events compared to placebo. The risk ratio was 0.96. Statistically, testosterone patients did slightly better, though not enough to claim cardiovascular benefit. But the danger narrative? Demolished by the largest, most rigorous study ever conducted. Did you see headlines about this? Did your doctor mention it at your last appointment? Did the FDA reconsider that black box warning? Silence. But let's go deeper. Let's look at what optimized testosterone actually does in the male body. The cascade of effects that make pharmaceutical companies very, very nervous. A study in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism showed that testosterone replacement therapy significantly improved insulin sensitivity and reduced fasting glucose in hypogonadal men. Translation: it directly addresses the metabolic dysfunction that leads to type 2 diabetes. Diabetes medications represent a $50 billion plus annual market. Research published in Psychoneuroendocrinology demonstrated that testosterone therapy produced significant improvements in depression scores, in some studies rivaling or exceeding the effects of SSRIs in men with low testosterone levels. Antidepressants are a $15 billion annual market. Multiple studies in the Journal of Sexual Medicine showed that testosterone therapy improved erectile function, sexual desire, and overall sexual satisfaction in men with hypogonadism, often eliminating the need for PDE5 inhibitors. The ED drug market exceeds $5 billion annually. Sleep studies have shown that optimizing testosterone improves sleep architecture and reduces sleep apnea severity in some patients. The sleep aid market is worth $70 billion globally. Do you see the pattern? One intervention, one hormone that your body was designed to produce. And it starts making 5, 6, 7 different pharmaceutical categories potentially unnecessary for millions of men. This is why you never saw headlines about the Traverse trial. This is why medical school curriculums still emphasize the risks while minimizing the benefits. This is why insurance companies make testosterone prescriptions harder to approve than opioids. It's not about your safety. It's about their revenue streams. ACT3. The mechanism. Let's talk about what testosterone actually does in your body, because understanding this is how you break through the propaganda. Testosterone isn't just a sex hormone. It's a master signaling molecule that affects virtually every tissue in the male body. Your brain has testosterone receptors. Your heart has testosterone receptors. Your bones, your muscles, your fat cells, your liver, your immune system, all of them are waiting for testosterone's instructions. When testosterone binds to androgen receptors in your muscle cells, it activates protein synthesis pathways, specifically the mTOR pathway, that tell your body to build and maintain lean tissue. This isn't just about aesthetics. Muscle mass is your metabolic currency. More muscle means better glucose disposal, improved insulin sensitivity, higher basal metabolic rate, better functional capacity as you age. In your brain, testosterone modulates neurotransmitter systems including dopamine and serotonin. It supports myelin production, the insulation around your neurons. It influences neuroplasticity and cognitive function. Men with low testosterone show measurable declines in spatial reasoning, verbal memory, and processing speed. In your cardiovascular system, testosterone affects vascular reactivity. It influences nitric oxide production, the same pathway that Viagra targets, by the way. Healthy testosterone levels support endothelial function and appropriate blood vessel dilation. In your fat cells, testosterone inhibits lipoprotein lipase activity, the enzyme that helps store fat. It promotes beta-adrenergic receptor sensitivity, making fat cells more responsive to fat-burning signals. Men with low testosterone preferentially accumulate visceral fat, the metabolically dangerous fat that wraps around organs. Here's what's crucial to understand. Testosterone doesn't exist in isolation. It's part of an interconnected hormonal network. When testosterone is low, your body compensates in ways that create additional dysfunction. Low testosterone leads to increased aromatase activity in fat tissue, which converts more testosterone to estrogen, which promotes more fat storage, which creates more aromatase, which converts more testosterone to estrogen. It's a self-reinforcing cycle of decline. Low testosterone affects thyroid hormone conversion and sensitivity. It affects cortisol regulation. It affects growth hormone pulsatility. The downstream effects create that clinical picture every doctor sees but never connects: metabolic syndrome, mood disorders, sleep dysfunction, cognitive decline, sexual dysfunction, cardiovascular risk factors. And what does modern medicine do? It treats each downstream consequence separately. A different drug for each symptom. Nobody backs up far enough to ask, what if we fixed the upstream signal? Because fixing the upstream signal isn't profitable. There's one more mechanism you need to understand: the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis. Your brain constantly monitors testosterone levels and adjusts production accordingly. When external factors suppress this axis, which modern life does constantly through sleep deprivation, chronic stress, environmental endocrine disruptors, processed food, sedentary behavior, and more, your body can get stuck in a low production state. The system isn't broken. It's adapting to signals that tell it you don't need high testosterone. The problem is, those signals are lying. ACT4, real-world application. So what do you actually do with this information? First, know your numbers. Don't accept, "you're fine," from a doctor who glanced at a basic metabolic panel. Request a full hormone workup. Total testosterone, free testosterone, SHBG, estradiol, LH, FSH. Get tested in the morning when testosterone levels peak. Get tested more than once because single measurements can be misleading. Understand that the reference range is not the optimal range. A normal level of 350 might be statistically common, but it's not where most men feel and function their best. Research suggests that most men experience optimal benefits when their levels are in the upper third of the reference range, though individual response varies significantly. Second, before considering exogenous testosterone, exhaust the natural optimization strategies. This isn't me trying to talk you out of TRT. It's me trying to make sure you've addressed the foundational factors that might be suppressing your production. Sleep optimization is non-negotiable. Every hour of sleep debt measurably suppresses testosterone production. Studies show that men who sleep 5 hours versus 8 hours have testosterone levels that differ by as much as 15%. Resistance training is a direct testosterone signal. Heavy compound movements, squats, deadlifts, presses, performed at sufficient intensity trigger acute testosterone elevations and, more importantly, improve receptor sensitivity over time. Body composition matters enormously. Excess body fat drives aromatase activity and estrogen production. Losing visceral fat can significantly improve testosterone levels without any pharmaceutical intervention. Micronutrient status, specifically zinc, magnesium, vitamin D, and boron, affects testosterone synthesis and receptor binding. Most men are deficient in at least one of these. Stress management matters because chronic cortisol elevation directly antagonizes testosterone production. Your body interprets chronic stress as a survival threat, and survival mode doesn't prioritize reproduction. Third, if you've optimized these factors and you're still symptomatic with suboptimal levels, seek specialized care. Do not expect your primary care physician to be an expert in hormone optimization. They're not trained for it. The system specifically doesn't train them for it. Look for physicians who specialize in hormone health, who stay current on the actual research, who don't just parrot the fear-based guidelines from 15 years ago. Clinics that specialize in testosterone therapy exist for a reason. They fill a gap that mainstream medicine refuses to address. Be wary of clinics that prescribe without proper testing, monitoring, and follow-up. Legitimate testosterone therapy requires baseline labs, regular monitoring of hematocrit and estradiol, PSA tracking, and dosage adjustments based on your individual response. Fourth, understand your legal options. Testosterone with a valid prescription from a licensed physician is legal. Buying testosterone from underground sources without a prescription is not. and carries real risks of contaminated or mislabeled products. Some men explore telehealth hormone clinics that operate in legal gray areas. Others work with local physicians willing to prescribe appropriately. Others pursue optimization entirely through lifestyle factors. There's no single right answer, but there are definitely wrong approaches. ACT 5. The bigger picture here's why this matters beyond just your gym performance or your energy levels. We are watching the systematic medicalization of normal male experience. Feeling tired? Here's a pill. Feeling unmotivated? Here's a different pill. Can't sleep? Can't perform? Can't focus? Can't maintain muscle? Can't regulate your weight? Pills, 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 pills. Each symptom treated in isolation. Each prescription generating revenue. Each man converted into a lifetime customer for multiple pharmaceutical products, when many of these men would see dramatic improvement from addressing one fundamental signal. The average testosterone level in American men has declined significantly over the past several decades. This isn't disputed. It's documented in multiple longitudinal studies. We are creating a population of hypogonadal men, and then systematically denying them access to the most direct intervention. Why? Because treating the symptoms is more profitable than fixing the cause. The clinics being shut down aren't being shut down because they're harming patients. They're being shut down because they're helping patients in ways that threaten established revenue streams. Insurance companies don't want to pay for testosterone therapy, but they'll happily cover the 6 other medications you need when you don't get it. This isn't about testosterone being some miracle drug. It's about a corrupt system that has captured medical education, regulatory agencies, and insurance policy, and deployed fear as a tool to keep you from accessing a fundamental hormone your body needs. They told you testosterone was dangerous. They told you the side effects weren't worth the risk. They told you to trust